Hola a todos! About 2 years ago, I made a video on the AQA higher tier writing paper for GCSE Spanish, but that was ages ago, so this is an updated version for 2025. I'm going to go through all 3 questions very slowly and show you how to plan, write, and proofread each answer in the writing paper. You get 75 minutes in total, and I'm going to do this paper slowly and in real time, so I'll try to use all the time I'm given, just like you should do in the exam. Vale, vamos! Okay, starting with the first question, this is 90 words, 4 bullet points, and 16 marks. You get 2 options, so you get 1.1 or 1.2. You should read both and decide which one you're going to answer. So let's do that then. So question 1 here. The blurb here doesn't matter too much, but it says, ¿Tienes un amigo español? Pedro, responde estas preguntas para que pueda conocerte mejor. Then the bullet points are the important bit. So, lo bueno de tu región, ¿qué hiciste la última vez que fuiste al extranjero? Si prefieres viajar con tus amigos o con tu familia. And lastly, ¿dónde quieres vivir en el futuro? So these all look like sort of theme 2 points about that sort of home, region, traveling sort of topic. Then the next one here is says Carlos, tu amigo de Chile te ha preguntado sobre tu instituto. ¿Qué piensas de tus profesores? ¿Qué hiciste recientemente para sacar buenas notas? Tu opinión sobre las normas en tu insti. And lastly, ¿qué quieres estudiar el año próximo? So from these questions, I would say, just off the bat, I think this one here is easier because these 2 bullet points in particular, this one here, ¿qué hiciste for getting good grades, sacar buenas notas, and even maybe the school rules topic, las normas, can be tricky. Numbers 1 and 4, not so much. And here maybe this bullet point 3 can be slightly tricky, but just for this sake, I'm going to answer this one here just because I'd say it's overall a little bit trickier. So I've picked this question really quickly. I'm going to answer this one. Don't spend too long deciding which one to pick. Just pick one and go for it. So this question here, 4 bullet points. Let's start off with planning. You should plan, even though it's just a 90-word question, you should still do some sort of small plan. I'm going to do my plan in black, this black color here. So actually, I'll just do it in blue. So for planning, I would first think about tenses. So what tense is each bullet point in? And just before we do that, let's just verbally translate the bullet point. So what you think of your teachers, profesores being teachers, ¿qué hiciste, what you did recently to get good grades or to get good marks even, is what notas means. The third bullet point, your opinion about the rules, las normas, is the rules of your or in your school, and what you want to study next year. So this is next year. So tenses, the first bullet point there is in the present tense. I'm going to write PR for present tense. Actually, that's not helpful, is it? I'll write PRET if I can fit it in there. Sorry, PRES. What am I doing? Present tense, PRES. Then the second one, ¿qué hiciste? That ending, it's mainly the ending that will tell you, as well as the word maybe recientemente. This is the preterite tense in the past, so PRET. Hiciste is in the preterite tense. Tu opinión, again, opinions are always going to be present tense like the first one, so PRES for present. And lastly, ¿qué quieres estudiar? This is going to be your future tense. So for the 90 word, you do have to refer to all 3 time frames in your answer. So the bullet points themselves will help you with that. You've covered the present, the past, and the future. Yeah, so I've written there the main tenses that each bullet point is in. Then, apart from tenses, we can make notes on what we want to answer, really short sort of words and stuff like that. So for example, first one, what I think about teachers. I can do a good thing or a bad thing. I'm going to pick a specific teacher. And maybe I can say they explain well. So that would be explica bien. So explica bien. So I'm just almost annotating little things that I can use to answer the questions. The second one is slightly trickier, what you did recently to get good grades. I can say I revised, repasé in the preterite tense, or estudié as well. Then the third one, the school rules, I'm going to say they're strict. It's quite easy to say. Son estrictas. And then maybe I'm going to just note down one rule that I can talk about in particular. So for example, stuff like eating gum or chewing gum, using your phone. I'm going to say you must respect others. Should I use that one? Let's say it for now anyway. Respetar a los demás. This is a really good word here, los demás. It just means others. I'm going to turn off the spell check in a second because that's annoying me. But for example, respetar a los demás, a school rule that we can talk about. And lastly, what you want to study. I'm going to say a subject. So for example, las matemáticas. Matemáticas. Well, actually, to make my life a bit easier, maybe I can pick a singular school subject. So I don't have to worry about sort of plural adjectives and stuff. Let's say el dibujo. And then maybe if I get onto it, I can talk about gap year. So el año sabático. There's like another option that I could take, for example, gap year, el año sabático. Vale? Now we can get on to answering the actual question. Okay, I've turned off the spell check, so let's begin. The first question is your opinion, so I'm going to start off with an opinion phrase. I could use, for example, pienso que, creo que. I'm going to use something a bit more complicated, which is desde mi punto de vista. So from my point of view, professors, so teachers, mis profesores. And after this, I have to use son because it's plural. So my teachers, son, they are. So desde mi punto de vista, I'm going to make that a bit smaller actually. Okay, so desde mi punto de vista, mis profesores son, and then just an adjective. I could say sort of kind, smart, intelligent. They're talkative. They're good. They're bad, etc. I'm going to pick. I was going to use the word strict, but for the third bullet point, I'm going to use the word strict. So I don't want to repeat the same word. For the 90-word question, it's not a lot of words. Try and avoid repeating adjectives and stuff like that, repeating words that you don't need to repeat. So let's use pacientes as a positive. So mis profesores son pacientes, they are patient. I'm going to pick, so let's answer the bullet point now. I'm going to pick a specific teacher and just have one more sentence about them. So for example, el profesor de España, sorry, español, the language, español. So el profesor del español. We can say S, or sort of S. Let's, what did we say in our plan? We said something, yeah, explica bien. So I'm going to pick a specific teacher, my Spanish teacher, el profesor de español. Explica, so this is more for a better reason, explica bien. Y let's say tiene un buen sentido del humor. Sentido del humor, and that means he's got a good sense of humor. So there's two sentences there about teachers. So my Spanish teacher, or the Spanish teacher, explains well and has a good sense of humor. That is enough for that first bullet point. Then, ¿qué hiciste recientemente para sacar buenas notas? We said repasé in our plan, didn't we? I'm going to start off talking about that. So I'm going to use the words in the bullet point. So para, they say, yeah, para sacar buenas notas. Repasé mucho la semana, and because it's a past tense activity, I'm going to say la semana pasada. And then continuing on, let's do one more sentence about, so what you did to get good grades or like be a good student overall. I'm going to say, let's use a different tense now. Let's use the present tense again and talk about like advising what other students can do generally to get good grades or to be a good student. We can use a subjunctive here, sorry. So with the subjunctive, if you're telling someone like it's important to do something, then you can use the subjunctive. So for example, es importante que means it is important that. If I say, for example, hagas, that comes from the verb hacer, but it's in the subjunctive. So instead of haces, it becomes hagas. It's irregular in the subjunctive. Don't worry if you don't understand the subjunctive too well. It's just a simple, it's not simple, but I'm using the subjunctive here just to vary up my writing. You can do a similar thing just in different tenses, but I'm going to say es importante que hagas tus deberes. Actually, with that said, let's say you didn't understand the subjunctive. How else could you say the same sentence, but in a different way? For example, I would say, creo que los deberes son importantes. And I could say again, para sacar buenas notas, importantes. So I'm saying this a similar sentence. It's the same point I'm making. I'm just one's in the subjunctive and one's reworded to be a bit easier to say. But anyway, I'm going to stick with that subjunctive there. So es importante que hagas tus deberes. And that's enough. Again, this does not need to be super long or complicated. That's enough there. Third one, tu opinión sobre las normas en tu insti. Let's talk a bit more about this one. Your paragraphs or whatever, like you write for each bullet point, does not need to be equal. So you can write more for one bullet point, less for another, and that's perfectly fine. So, tu opinión sobre las normas en tu insti. Again, opinion phrase. I'm going to start off with diría que. I think this is a good opinion starter, opinion phrase. Diría que, I would say that. Las normas. Or we can say reglas, which means the same thing. Reglas. En mi insti or instituto mean the same. Son demasiadas. And then here I have to say estrictas because normas is plural and feminine, so estrictas also has to match, being plural and feminine. So as ending there, estrictas, ¿vale? Back to blue. Diría que, let's say porque, or I can say por ejemplo, son demasiadas estrictas. I'm going to say para dar un ejemplo. Para dar, so in order to give an example, para dar un ejemplo. For example, let's say what we said above. So tienes que. The example I gave above was being, what was it, respectful, wasn't it? Respetar a los demás. I'm not going to use this one because I want to go down the route of saying strict. So I'm going to pick other rules that are maybe like stricter. So tienes que llevar uniforme. Y no se debe, you cannot, no se debe, or you mustn't usar el móvil en clase. So I've given two rules here. So wearing uniform and using a phone in class as two examples. Just to vary things up, I'm going to refer to someone else's opinion. So según mi hermano, estas reglas son, again, so these rules are saying son has to be plural, son demasiadas, I've used demasiadas before, I'm going to just say son injustas. So unfair is injustas, ¿vale? You can repeat estrictas again, you can say son malas or whatever, but injustas is a good word, adjective to use here. They are unfair. That seems like it would be enough in terms of content. Is there anything else I can use in terms of a different tense, maybe to be to vary up my work? The best way to get more marks, especially in the next question we're going to go on to, is just tenses. Not so much for this question because it's a bit easier. Fewer words, fewer marks, but try and vary up tenses, vary up vocabulary as well. So I'm going to say, am I going to say something else for different tense? Let's use a different tense for the next bullet point, maybe. Yeah, and move on. So the final bullet point, fourth and final one, is que quieres estudiar el año próximo. Let's do this one. So what do I want to study? I talked about art, didn't I? My subject of art. So we can say en el futuro. What else can we say? Let's use en el futuro. So in the future, en el futuro. Quiero estudiar el dibujo en la universidad. Aunque, I'm going to talk about university here, generally using the present tense now. So, aunque, let's say ir a la universidad. So, although going to university is something, I can say it helps me or it helps you get a job. So, aunque ir a la universidad es carísimo, really expensive, carísimo. And just to show you why I've used carísimo and not carísima, I'm not describing university. I'm just describing going to university. The action ir, it could be anything here. I'll still say an adjective ending in o, a masculine adjective. Vale? So because we're describing the action, actions are sort of going to be masculine, or use the o ending. So ir a la universidad es carísimo, and we say carísimo, no carísima, because we're describing ir, not the university itself. Vale? So aunque es carísimo, comma, and then I want to say it can help you, or it helps you get a job. I'm going to say te ayuda, it helps you, te ayuda from the infinitive ayudar, to help, te ayuda a conseguir is a good word, almost to achieve. You could probably say tener, but I'm going to use conseguir, so te ayuda a conseguir un trabajo. I'm going to say un trabajo con o que paga bien. So giving even more information here. I wasn't going to originally say that, but so I've said here, so although, aunque going to university is expensive, really expensive, carísimo is how we can exaggerate the ending. I could say caro, but carísimo is a couple more letters and it exaggerates. It's super expensive. It helps you to achieve or to get a job that pays well, que paga bien, ¿vale? And that is my fourth bullet point there. I'm not going to bother counting the words. This looks like it's close to 90, hopefully. Let's write one more sentence just at the end here, because we talked about in our plan, año sabático, right? A gap year. Let's add that in as well. I'm going to say, how can I link in a separate sort of path of going through a gap year? Si pudiera, just to use the imperfect subjunctive here, if I could, let's say, so you can say si pudiera and start a sentence with that. I'm going to actually not use that. I've just thought of something else I could say. I could say si tuviera, if I had, si tuviera más dinero, because I've talked about a job earlier on, so it's like sort of seems like I need the money, I want the money. Si tuviera más dinero, so if I had, I'm sort of dreaming here and using the imperfect subjunctive, which is the tense here, the IMP imperfect subjunctive. If I had more money, si tuviera más dinero, me gustaría, so using the conditional after here, so me gustaría, tomarme, is how we say, like, take, tomarme, un año sabático. Sabático, and I can say, so si tuviera más dinero, me gustaría tomarme un año sabático, and what I can describe sort of what I want to do on this gap year, y si tuviera, and I can say, so I said, me gustaría tomarme un año sabático, y maybe like help something or teach something, so I'm going to let's use enseñar. Is a good verb. Enseñar is to teach, enseñaría, and I would teach el español. Well, I would teach Spanish. So I've written that as one extra sentence there just to hopefully meet the word count. It's hard to tell when you're writing if this looks like 90 words. I can go ahead and count that. I'm going to do that in a second. But in the exam, I wouldn't worry too much about counting too much. As long as you know you've written like at least 90, it doesn't have to be a perfect number, right? So that is my last sentence there. It's just checking is correct. So me gustaría tomarme un año sabático y enseñaría. I would teach in the conditional tense Spanish. Let me quickly count how many words I've got here. Okay, that's approximately 110. I just rounded that at the end there. So that's going to be definitely enough in terms of word count. Let's stop here and now just go through and just to finish off this question, proofread it. So I've spent around 15 minutes writing this. Let's now proofread and then we can move on to the next question. In the exam, it won't take you super long to write this. So I've tried to go slowly and obviously like I've done this before, so this is easier for me to write, but even in the exam for like you guys, year 11s, it shouldn't be that difficult to be able to produce this amount of work. If in terms of timings, you should spend around 25 minutes as a maximum on this question, but it won't take you that long. Yeah, it really shouldn't. Okay, so let's just proofread then. So, desde mi punto de vista, mis profesores son pacientes. El profesor del español explica bien y tiene un buen sentido del humor. I'm going to remove the, we don't say del, we can just say de. That sounds better. So, el profesor de español I could even say mi profesor actually. I might change that to mi profesor. And in the exam, obviously with pen and paper, you can cross out and just rewrite on top. So mi profesor de español explica bien y tiene un buen sentido del humor. I'm also going to double check I've answered the bullet point. Just really double check. So, ¿qué piensas de tus profesores? I've answered the question, I've said they're patient. Okay. Next, para sacar buenas notas, repasé mucho la semana pasada. Es importante que hagas tus deberes. I'm gonna, just because the sentence sounds a bit clunky, I'm gonna add para. So para is used to show purpose or intention. So para, I can say like, I can repeat para sacar buenas notas, but I don't want to repeat the same words again. I'm gonna say para tener éxito. Oh, that is really big. Para tener éxito is a word for success. So para tener éxito en la escuela, I could say. So to have success in school, it's important to do your homework. So I'm still answering the question, but I'm talking more about like generic success rather than specifically getting good grades. I'm just using a synonym, right? So here I could have literally just said the word sacar buenas notas, but I've used something a bit different just to have my work be varied and not repeat the same word so close in such close proximity. So hagas, I've used the present subjunctive there. I've used it correctly. Checking that, good. Okay, have I answered the question? Yes, hiciste, as long as I've answered it in the preterite tense to start off with, because I need to use the preterite tense to answer hiciste, what you did recently. I'm happy with that. Third one, opinion about rules. So diría que las normas en mi instituto son demasiadas estrictas. Good. I'm going to get rid of the yellow dots there. Thank you. Para dar un ejemplo, tienes, that's the idea, tienes que llevar uniforme y no se debe usar móvil en clase. El móvil en clase, según mi hermano, estas reglas son injustas. I've answered the question there. And lastly, ¿qué quieres estudiar el año próximo? En el futuro quiero estudiar el dibujo, so the art, en la universidad. Aunque ir a universidad es carísimo, te ayuda a conseguir un trabajo que paga bien. I've given like a positive and a negative here. Well, I guess there are negative first, being expensive, and positive, it can help you get a job. Last sentence, si tuviera más dinero, me gustaría tomarme un año sabático y enseñaría el español. Vale? In terms of tenses, just to put it in green there, the various tenses I've used, let's use a highlighter here. So, son is the present tense, repasé, preterite tense, hagas, present subjunctive, quiero is not technically the future tense. I haven't actually used the future tense itself. I've used the imperfect subjunctive here, but I've referred to the future by using quiero estudiar. So technically, quiero is in the present tense. If I said, for example, estudiaré, that's the future tense. Quiero technically is the present tense, but it counts because it's used to refer to the future. And anyway, I have used the conditional here as well. So a variety of tenses there to get good marks. It should be a full mark answer. There might be a small mistake or whatever, but yeah, that's how you answer this question, okay? If you've got any questions while I'm doing this, let me know in the comments, and I'll always be answering comments. Let's move on to question 2. Oops, the 150 word question now. So writing 150 words and 32 marks. In the question itself, it would say like, write 150 words. I haven't written that here, but yeah. This is 90 words, approximately 90 words. This is 150 words. Treat it as a minimum, so minimum 150 words, okay? I'm going to read both questions and see which one I want to answer. So, let's do this in a color here. So, durante tu tiempo libre decides escribir un blog para describir tu vida. Menciona, we get 2 bullet points here, lo bueno y lo malo de la tecnología para los jóvenes. In these questions for the 150 word, you will struggle to sort of fill up the words right of content. So you can stray a bit from the bullet points. In this case, you can talk about technology and sort of like your uses of technology, etc. It doesn't just have to be strictly pros and cons. Yeah, lo bueno y lo malo. Then, un día que pasaste en el cine recientemente. This one is slightly trickier in the preterite tense. They're going to have 2 bullet points in different tenses. I'm not a massive fan of that second bullet point there. If you were going to answer this one, you would have to talk about other things as well. So again, you can stray a bit from cinema, talk about sort of in the preterite tense, what other things you did on that day. I'm going to write on that day. And you can talk about the cinema generally in the present tense as well. So don't feel like you have to exactly answer the bullet point sort of perfectly. As long as you've written at least one sentence which covers the bullet point, you can stray slightly away from the bullet point. If you had to. Then the second one here, so 2.2, has visto un concurso en una revista, a magazine, is a revista, good word here, española nueva, decides participar con esta información. Tus recomendaciones para mantenerse en forma, so the topic of health here. What does it say? Para los jóvenes. And si te gustaría viajar más en el futuro. The second bullet point is in the conditional tense, and the first one is in the present tense. So there's always going to be different tenses there, two different tenses, or time frames as well. This is, both bullet points are slightly easier. Obviously for this one here, you'd answer yes, because that would be the easiest thing to talk about, and then just talk about the future pretty much, and traveling and why traveling is good, etc. And the first one, all the health vocabulary stuff, exercise, eating well, etc. So from these two questions, I'm going to pick one to answer. 2.2 is probably easier, so to challenge myself, let's go with 2.1. But it's up to you, obviously, in the exam, whichever one you want to answer. But don't spend too long thinking about it. Okay, so 2.1, let's have a go at this one. So we're going to start off by planning, just like we did in the first question. So tenses, I'm going to just rub this out for a second. What is the principle, the main tense of that first bullet point? Is the present, isn't it? Lo bueno and lo malo. And the second one is the preterite tense. We do need to get full marks for language and the grammar. You do need to use the future time frame. So you need to use all three. So we've got something in the present, something in the past, which is the preterite, and something in the future. So we are going to have to make sure we use the future later on somewhere in here. In terms of planning, I would do two separate paragraphs for lo bueno y lo malo, and I'm going to end up writing more for that first bullet point and less for the other, because I'm going to struggle a bit with the second bullet point there. They do not have to be equal. You can write a lot more for one bullet point than the other, as long as you must mention each bullet point at sort of face value. So you have to say something good about technology and something bad, and that, at least then you've covered the bullet point. And then you must talk about a day that you spent in the cinema. You must use it in the preterite tense, so the first sort of sentence, I'd say, do it in the preterite, answer the question, and then you can use other tenses and you can stray slightly away from the bullet point, but not too much. So one paragraph on lo bueno, one on lo malo, and then another one on that second bullet point. Let's think about some advantages. Let's mind map slightly here. So advantages of technology, communication. So you know why here la comunicación. I may use that word, or I may do it as a verb. For example, se puede is a common is a good structure I'm going to use. Se puede, one can or you can. For example, chatear, etc., etc. In terms of disadvantages, you can talk about like el ciberacoso, cyberbullying. I'm going to talk about las redes sociales as part of technology here as well, because that sort of counts as technology, as well as talking about like phones, computers, etc. The expression that I like to use a lot is es una perdida de dinero o tiempo. So either it's a waste of time or waste of money, if I can fit that in there. So I'm going to use that expression at one point as well. Es una perdida, a waste or a loss of money or time. That's that first bullet point. In terms of tenses, let's use one other tense for this one. Let's use the future tense. So what I personally am going to use technology for in the future. For example, next week I'm going to use my phone, blah, blah, blah. Vale? So present and future, and this second bullet point, un día que pasaste en el cine recientemente. Talk about a film. So for example, I'm going to pick here, I watched. So vi is the verb you want to say I watched, or vimos, if it's with your friends or family, una película. I personally am not a fan of saying like una película que se llama, the names of films in English. I'm just going to say una película and the type of film. So for example, una película de, and then I can fill this with a lot of different things. I'm going to say una película de terror. Vale? I'm going to use something like lo pasé bomba. I had a great time as an expression here, as exclamation with this exclamation marks, lo pasé bomba. Or you can say something like que divertido, or switch that out for any other adjective. Vale? Que divertido, how fun. In terms of another tense for the cinema question, let's have the preterite plus the present to talk about sort of cinema as a whole and the present tense, like why cinemas are good or bad. We can compare cinemas to watching films like at home. And then I want to use the subjunctive sum. I'm just going to make a note here. Subjunctive and the imperfect. I want to use those as well to really use as many tenses as I can. So either the present or the imperfect subjunctive, stuff like si fuera, cuando sea mayor, and the imperfect, something like cuando era joven, that sort of thing. ¿Vale? So that's my plan. Spend a couple minutes planning. The better your plan is, the better your writing will be because you've got a structure, you know what you're going to say. So vamos a escribir. Actually, last thing we can do is phrases. So talk about like grade 9 phrases that you want to use. Let's write some of those down. So for example, a mi ver, for in my opinion. Ips, in my opinion. Según, I'm going to use for referring to someone else, which just means according to. Double C, isn't it? According to. Other expressions that we can use. So it has always pleased me. It has always pleased me, or like almost saying like I've always liked something. Vale? It's always pleased. Using the verb gustar. Okay, that's just 4 phrases that I want to use to show off like grade 9 level stuff and show off complexity in writing. Especially in this question, you do want to vary your vocabulary, focus on showing off. Yeah? Okay, now we can start writing. I'm going to make this a tad bit smaller actually. Vale, empezamos. So, lo bueno, talk about advantages. I'm going to start off by saying, a mi ver, hay muchas, the word for advantages is ventajas, de la tecnología. Accents don't matter too much. For example, the accent on the I doesn't make the world of difference, but I'm going to put it there anyway. Hay muchas ventajas de la tecnología para, I'm going to say para todas las edades, for all the ages. And then primero, to make a bit of a list. So firstly, primero, or you can say en primer lugar, similar thing of like in first place, firstly. Primero, se puede, you can, se puede, or one can. Se puede hacer sus deberes fácilmente. Full stop. I'm going to link it back to me. So firstly, you can do homework easily. I could use the present or the perfect tense to link it into like in sort of not my opinion, but like what I did, sort of how I used technology for homework. I want to say, para mí o personalmente, I'm going to say, ayer usé mi ordenador para, to show purpose or intention, so para in order to, para, let's just use hacer, para hacer mis deberes, ya que la pantalla es grande. So yesterday I used my computer to do my homework because the screen is big. La pantalla es grande. I'm not sure if that's the best reason I can say, but we can continue. So that's, I've used the perfect tense here without even anything I was meant to, but I did. And I've given 1 point there. I'm going to say secondly, en segundo lugar. En segundo lugar, in second place. Las redes sociales, do I want to mention specifically? Las redes sociales son útiles, dado que, which means because, dado que. I'm going to add in here for los jóvenes son útiles. Oops. Son útiles para los and then jóvenes. When you're writing this on paper, you can just scribble out and just fit in there. Para los jóvenes, dado que se pueden. This time they can. Se pueden, not just se puede. Se pueden hacer. Oops, hacer with a C. Hacer nuevos amigos. Rápidamente, quickly, rápidamente. Vale? So they can make new friends quickly, rápidamente. I believe that's the correct word. And then I'm going to say, vale agregar que is worth adding that, or let's actually use that later. Let's keep that for later on. Let's use además. Además, las redes sociales they let you, they dejan expresar tus opiniones. I'm gonna say, I want to talk about social media in terms of like someone like my brother or me liking it or not liking it. Let's say we can use según or a mi hermano le encantan las redes sociales y las use. Sorry, that should be las usa cada día. Okay, let me explain what I've written there because it's slightly complex. So I've said, talking about my brother, I could do the same sentence for me, but I'm talking about my brother here. So a mi hermano, I can say a mi hermano mayor or whatever, add adjective there. Le encantan, he loves las redes sociales y las usa cada día. He uses them every day. So this is what we call a direct object pronoun, a DOP, a direct object pronoun, las. ¿Vale? My handwriting there is not very good, so I'm going to just rewrite that. Y las usa cada día, or I could say mucho, and that's in the present tense. ¿Vale? So this is good going here. Let's do one in the future tense now, a future tense sentence. I can say en el futuro, I can say tengo ganas. Oops, I keep skipping letters. Tengo ganas de. I have enthusiasm. I have the intention. Tengo ganas is what that means. De plus infinitive we say. So tengo ganas de utilizar mi móvil la semana que viene para contactar mi familia, my family, and I'm going to say, porque será rápido. I have talked about speed before earlier in this question, but I'm going to say rápido again. I just wanted to, so when I say tengo ganas de, I'm not actually using the future tense. I'm talking about the future, referring to the future without using the word future. I wanted to include in there a conjugated verb, será. So that way I've like definitely used the future. I'm pretty sure it still counts as a future tense and you will still be rewarded for it for including that time frame, even if you don't actually use a verb conjugated in the near future, also in the future. But I wanted to put that in there, so será. ¿Vale? It will be será rápido. Tengo ganas de utilizar mi móvil la semana que viene, next week, or like the coming week, the following week, para contactar mi familia, porque será rápido. Bien. I don't know how many words this is. I'm not going to count them for now. I'm going to move on to my second paragraph because I've used the present tense, I've used the future. I've given 3 advantages of technology and social media. I've done them both together. Let's now talk about the other side, the disadvantages. Rather, so still on that first bullet point, but a second paragraph, just to split up my work slightly. Let's use sort of contrasting sentence structure. I'm going to say no obstante, which means the same thing as an embargo. So nevertheless, oh, my handwriting's not the best. No obstante, nevertheless, la there's no H in there. La tecnología te engancha or te engancha, it hooks you is what that means. Do I want to talk about hoverness or not really? I'm going to sort of ignore the hoverness bit for the time being. I know I haven't sort of directly mentioned los hoverness. I think I did up here earlier on, but I'm still answering the bullet point, ¿vale? No obstante, la tecnología te engancha y especialmente, let's talk about hoverness here then. So, y especialmente, I'm saying es because I'm talking about la tecnología, not las redes sociales. If here I said las redes, I'd have to say son here, ¿vale? So, y es, especialmente es peligroso para los jóvenes. So I'm mentioning jóvenes now, teenagers, para los jóvenes, ya que es malo para su salud mental. So that's saying there, especially it is dangerous, peligroso. Doesn't have any accent, I think it's just peligroso, okay? It's the adjective peligroso. Ooh, I need to say peligrosa, don't I? Because I've said tecnología. Good spot there. So la tecnología te engancha y especialmente es peligrosa para los jóvenes ya que es malo para su salud mental. ¿Vale? It is bad for their mental health. Okay, continuing on, I'm going to use vale agregar que, which I said in my plan. It means it is worth adding that. So vale agregar que. I want to talk about cibracoso. That was something else in my plan as well, wasn't it? We can take these off now. So, cibracoso we mentioned, so let's talk about that. So, and I can also try and include es una perdida, that phrase there. So I'm going to say, no obstante, la tecnología te engancha y especialmente es peligrosa para los jóvenes, ya que es malo para su salud mental. Vale agregar que el ciberacoso es otro problema. It is another problem. And problema is masculine. So otro problema que afecta a los niños as a synonym for jóvenes. ¿Vale? I could go in more detail there, but I am not going to. I want to use the present tense and talk about sort of my usage again of social media, whatever. Earlier we talked about homework, didn't we? So I'm going to say, prefiero reducir mi uso de las redes sociales. I prefer to reduce my use of social media. I'm gonna backtrack for a second and not say that. What can I say? Let's talk about usage of my use of the. We haven't mentioned internet yet, so I can say I use the internet for good things, maybe, even though this paragraph should be saying negative. It's fine. I wouldn't get too caught up on what you're writing as long as it grammatically makes sense and it answers the bullet points. Don't worry about like perfection. So I am going to just start writing here. Let's use lo malo or lo que no me gusta is a good phrase. Lo que no me gustaba for the imperfect. Let's switch onto the imperfect now. So lo que no me gustaba. Lo que no me gustaba era que Lo que más, I said lo que no me gustaba era que, I'm just making sure that sounds correct in my head, era que había demasiado anuncios for advertisements, anuncios en el internet. And then once you start off with the imperfect, you want to bring it back to the present tense. Pero ahora, o pero hoy en día, which is like a good alternative to ahora, pero hoy en día no es un problema tan grande. Hopefully this makes sense. I wanted to really use the imperfect tense as well and focus on the grammar and the vocab being used. So, lo que no me gustaba era que había demasiado anuncios en el internet, pero hoy en día no es un problema tan grande. Double checking, había is in the imperfect tense. There used to be demasiados anuncios. Los anuncios is masculine, yes it is, en el internet, ¿vale? Bien. I'm going to stop with that second paragraph there, I think. Ooh, I haven't mentioned, let's do one more sentence, including the S una parida there. So hopefully, as I'm doing this, you can see that, like, I'm struggling a bit, right? I'm thinking about, like, what can I say? What comes next? I'm trying to order my work as I go. The better you plan, the better, easier it'll be for you to write, and there'll be less thinking time for you. But you will always struggle. That's why you get a lot of time on the writing paper to have a think about it. A lot of your time you will be thinking versus actually writing. If you want to rejig sentences around, you can cross them out. You can do little asterisks as well, just to make your workflow better. But I'm going to finish this second paragraph off with it's a waste of time. So, según mi padre, la I can repeat technology again, or do you want to repeat las redes sociales for like a fourth or fifth time? Según mi padre, I'm going to say la tecnología again. I'm aware I'm repeating the word a lot. There's not much I can do about that. Según mi padre, la tecnología es una pérdida de tiempo y nunca la usa. So sort of just like I did above, and I think was it the first paragraph talking about my brother's use of technology. Here I'm saying, yeah, I did it here somewhere, didn't I? A mi hermano y las usa. Here I'm saying nunca la usa. Again, he never uses it. Just to use the direct object pronoun there, ¿vale? I'm aware I'm running out of space. I'm gonna rejig some of this then. Vale. I'm also going to quickly have a quick word count because I'm struggling to tell how many words I've written. Actually, let me quickly show you a trick. So instead of I was going to count every single word, instead of doing that, let's average each line. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 13 and 14. Let's say there's 10 per line. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120. So without even actually counting, we're going to guess 120 words, which is good. We're getting close to that 150 mark. So let's do a sort of shortish paragraph on that final bullet point there. Un día que pasaste en el cine recientemente. So I'm going to start off by saying, when did I have this day? I could say ayer, la semana pasada. I'm going to say, hace 2 semanas, 2 weeks ago. Hace 2 semanas fui al cine con mi mejor amigo. So I'm almost just peppering in extra words. So this is mejor. I'm putting this in to show off vocabulary, to sort of instead of saying my friend, my best friend, to be more unique, to have uncommon language. And same here. I could have said la semana pasada. It's same 3 words, but I'm saying hace 2 semanas to use the sort of phrase ago, 2 weeks ago, just to be more unique and use a greater variety of vocabulary. ¿Vale? So fui al cine con mi mejor amigo y vimos, because I'm saying we went, so vimos, we watched una película, what did I say, de terror, una película fantástica. Actually, let's not bother with that. Let's say una película de terror Lo pasamos. We had a great time. Lo pasamos. I can say genial or bomba, whatever I want to say. I'm going to put those, oops, genial, and then exclamation mark and upside down exclamation mark there as well. So we had a great time. Lo pasamos genial. It's in the future tense with pasar. Después, I think the accent goes in the U, doesn't it? Después, fuimos a un restaurante. Students love saying un restaurante. Easy thing to say, isn't it? But I'm not going to say español. Because it's too easy, I'm going to say italiano. So a un restaurante italiano, just to be a bit more unique, everyone's going to say it. So the easiest country for people to say is España or Español. I'm going to mix things up and say italiano. I'm sure off that I know that word. So fuimos a un restaurante italiano y comimos. What can I say? Y comimos una sopa fría, or let's use fría, a cold soup, because why not? Vale? So there I've answered the question. I've answered a day I spent at the cinema recently. Done. I'm going to add one more sentence and actually try and wrap this up and use the subjunctive and use the present tense. So I want to talk about the advantages of the cinema as a whole. So I'm going to say, haven't said me gusta yet, have I today? Me gusta ir al cine, dado que el I want to say la pantalla. I like the word la. I know I've said la pantalla earlier, so maybe I don't say la pantalla. I'm going to say dado que let's use el ambiente. I was going to say that originally. El ambiente es bueno, pero por otro lado, the tickets, we can say las billetes, but I think that's more for like train. I'm going to say las entradas, which I've seen used for like concerts and stuff. So it just means tickets, but it's more like for movie theaters and stuff like that. Las entradas son carísimas. Vale? I think I used this in the question above as well, but this ending isima or isimo or isimos is exaggerating, super expensive. I'm saying son because it's las entradas, has to be carísimas because I'm saying las. It's a feminine plural noun. Vale? I can give one more sentence using the subjunctive now. I'm going to say cuando sea mayor. So when I'm older, me encantaría. I'm going to say ser, something very unique. Ser dueño. I would like to be the owner, ser dueño de un cine para ganar mucho dinero. This is, I would expect, this isn't a very easy thing to say, but it does make sense. I'm going to say, when I'm older, I would like to be, me encantaría ser, I would love to be dueño, which is like owner, which is the word for like owner or something. So I would like to be the owner of a cinema to earn a lot of money. So let's end it off with that. Vale, so cuando sea mayor, me encantaría ser el dueño de un cine para ganar mucho dinero. Vale. That should be 150 words. Again, we can do my counting again. Let's say there's 10 in each line. So 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120, 130, 140, 150. So 150 words there as a minimum. Tenses, I'm going to quickly go in there and highlight the tenses I've used. So I is the present tense. Use is the future tense. Será is the future tense. Did I use the imperfect in the first one? Maybe not. Then we've got había is the imperfect tense. So I've covered something in the present, something in the past, something in the future. Now I'm just looking for, I used the conditional, which is me encantaría, and then the subjunctive. I think that's all the tenses I have used. Vale? And that's enough in terms of variety of tenses, so I'm going to stop there. Hopefully that all makes sense for people watching. If you've got any comments, or any questions, I should say, leave a comment. Bien. Now we can move on to question 3, which is the translation question. Vale, empezamos. with the translation. So the final question is 12 more question, and we're translating from English into Spanish. Vale? So last Tuesday, let's first read it out loud. So last Tuesday, I went to the theatre and then I walked to the shopping centre. My dad wants to buy a new suit. My family and I will attend a wedding next month. I think weddings are expensive. My brother got married 2 years ago. He lives in a big house with his wife. So you notice with these translations, you've got a variety of tenses. So the preterite, the present tense, and the future will attend. So 3 different tenses and a variety of like vocabulary and stuff like that. So these questions will be tricky. There'll be words in there you don't know. And when it's marked for AQA, it's split up into loads of little chunks. I think it's around 12 or 13 chunks. So for example, like last Tuesday I went could be 1, to the theatre could be 1, I walked to the shopping centre could be 1, and each of those chunks is around 12 or 13 in total. You get ticks for them. If you get a certain number of ticks, you get 6 out of 6 for what they call conveying key messages. And then you get a separate 6 marks for your grammar, pretty much, your like perfection and accuracy. Vale? So as long as you've roughly like conveyed the key message, then you can get up to 6 marks for that, and then you get 6 marks for grammar, so 12 in total. So last Tuesday, the word for Tuesday is martes, and it's el martes. And for last, I have to say pasado. That's like one of the only things I can say. Pasado can go before here as well, so el pasado martes or el martes pasado. I went, fui, what am I saying? Theatre, fui a, and the word for theatre is el teatro, so fui al teatro. And then y luego, I'm going to say, sorry, the word for then I'm going to use luego. Y luego, I walked. We can say caminar or ir a pie in terms of the infinitives there. I'm going to use caminar here. So y luego caminé to the shopping center. Caminé al centro comercial. Y después, I'm saying my dad, mi padre, wants is quiere. Quiere, infinitive after that, quiere comprar, to buy a new suit. Suit is the word traje, which you may not know. Un traje nuevo, I can say un nuevo traje. I can go either way there. Vale? Then my family, mi familia. I'm saying my familia and I, so mi familia y yo is always in that order. It's never like yo y mi familia. We say my family and I in that order, mi familia y yo. We will attend. This is definitely going to be a tricky one. How can I say to attend? Asistir is the infinitive. Yeah? You if you're unsure, you can try saying ir, like we will go to a wedding, and that may be correct in the mark scheme. But I'm going to use asistir. So yo asis, and then to conjugate it in the future, asistir, we have the ending, and then we have the infinitive, and we have hemos at the end for the future tense. Vale? So future tense endings is as, a, hemos, es, an. Vale? Genial. So asistiremos here using the hemos ending. It's next to saying asistiremos a wedding, which is up there. So asistiremos un. So I should do this in blue, shouldn't I? I'm going to say a una boda, so to a wedding. A una boda. I'm saying next month, el mes próximo. Or I can say el mes que viene, either one. Then 2 sentences or 3 sentences left. I think you can use pienso que, don't overcomplicate it. Pienso que las bodas, weddings, las bodas, matrimonio is the word for marriage, but here you want to say sort of wedding, so las bodas son caras, they are expensive, son because it's plural, not es, and then caras because it's feminine plural as well. Mi hermano got married. This is definitely a tricky one. And this same got married came up in the AQA 2022 writing paper in the translation question. What is the infinitive to get married? How do I say that? To get married is casarse. Vale? It's reflexive. So casar becomes in the preterite he, she, casó. And then the front, the se at the front comes here and becomes se here because it's saying he, she. If it was, for example, I got married, it'd be me casó. Vale? It means he, she married me. In this case, he, she, someone married my brother se. So my brother, mi hermano, se casó 2 years ago. We use this in the 150 word, hace 2 años. Actually, we said this somewhere else to me, but hace 2 años for 2 years ago. Then the last final sentence, he lives, is vive. So vive is the infinitive. He, she becomes vive in the present tense. Vive en una casa grande con su wife. There are a couple of words we can say. I'm going to say esposa, or you can say mujer. I guess you can get away with saying mujer as well. Esposa or mujer for wife or woman. Vale? Good. That is the end of that translation question then, and that's the end of this paper. Let's zoom up then. I hope you found this video useful. I tried to go as slow as possible and still only spent an hour on this paper, but in the exam you'd get a full 75 minutes. Subscribe for more GCSE Spanish videos and drop a comment if you have a question. Adios!